Welcome to War Games Untoast, all of you lovely people. I am once again back talking about the latest edition of Warcry, and I am once again talking about allies. Last time, we had a bit of a natter about the mighty Ogroid Crusher, who is one of the most physically imposing threats Chaos has to offer. And today we talk about something that can not only go toe to toe with that beast, but actually surpasses it on a number of levels. And of course, I am talking about the Ogroid Myrmidon. But before we get into all of that, please consider leaving a like, a comment, and hitting that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out, and the channel has seen some great growth since I started, and I would love to see it grow more and reach more people so more people can get into Warcry. There's simply not enough Warcry content in the world, so any support that you can give helps grow the game that little bit more. So first things first, what are Ogroid Myrmidons? Despite their impressive size and brutish looking frame, Ogroid Myrmidons are actually masters of their craft, and their craft is death, murder, and destruction. These guys are all about pit fighting, slaughter, and the continued strive and journey towards perfection of their art. With shield, spear, and horn, they follow their leaders into battle and carve a path of destruction very few entities can. But of course, that's all just lore. Let's get into the pros and the cons before we hit on the deeper dive into abilities and reactions. So, first things first, we start with the pros. Ogroid Myrmidons are fast. These guys have movement 5, making them above average in speed and letting them outrun the majority of things in Warcry, or just catch them, escape, outmaneuver. That movement 5 is very nice, and things get even better when you consider the universal ability Rush, which buffs that to movement 6 or 12 on the double action, and that's a serious threat range for a monstrous infantry model of this size. But they're not just fast, they're also very tough. Like the Ogroid Crusher, the Ogroid Myrmidons actually toughness 6. This is the second highest toughness in all of Warcry. It is incredibly hard to shift. And then that's also augmented by 30 wounds, which is a little bit lower than the Ogroid Crusher, but 30 wounds is still nothing to scoff at. And of course, like his Ogroid cousin, the Ogroid also is incredibly strong. This guy is strength 5. He has a great damage profile of 4-8. He hits really hard. He's only got 3 attacks, but to be fair, there's ways to get around that, which I'll touch on later on. This guy is a physical powerhouse. And then that's also augmented by the fact he's also got fantastic reach. That movement 5 is great by itself, but when you have movement 5 and a 2-inch reach spear, you can stay safe against a lot of enemies and just poke away. You can just, it extends your presence on the battlefield. Your area of influence with the Ogroid is very, very high, and very few other allies that we can take, bar the Centaurian Marshal, which technically surpasses it, even reaches it. And adding to this, there's so many pros for this guy. This guy's reasonably priced. For everything you get in this model, the strength, the toughness, the wounds, the speed, the reach. This guy's also coming in. At a shockingly low price for what you get here. This guy is, I believe, slightly more expensive than the Ogroid Crusher, but you get so much more bang for your buck with this guy, which we'll get into a little bit later. But this guy is crazy cheap for what he brings. Very, very powerful. Very, very competitively priced. And then, just to round it all off, abilities. This guy has great abilities. Where the Ogroid came in with like 1 outstanding ability and 2 fairly solid ones. This guy comes in and he's just good. He's really good. Everything he does is just solid. You just can't knock it, man. You really can't knock it. And then we have cons, of course. So obviously you go into the cons after the pros. And to be fair, this guy doesn't have any. The Ogroid Myrmidon has no really blatantly obvious flaws. I guess you could see as low attacks. 3 attacks is very low. And that goes to 6 if you get the double attack off. And you can buff that to 8, or well, 4 to 8 if you use a double. Yeah, he's got low, like the Ogroid, he does have low attacks, but he can fix that, like I said later on, which we will go over in it shortly. And I guess he lacks utility. Oh no, even that's not true. He has utility. It's just not as strong as like dice manipulation, like the Fomoroid. So yeah, you can see how much I like the Ogroid Myrmidon because he is very good, and I'm struggling to come up with valid cons here. He's weak to nets. There you go. He's weak to nets. The Ogroid is such a threat. He will be netted constantly if they have access to nets, and those nets will mess you up because you can't do anything about it. A lot of nets have got like a 3-inch reach. You have a 2-inch spear. You bug out. You can't do nothing. So there's that, I guess. But other than that, this guy's solid. Very, very few drawbacks to this guy. Very, very good. So with all of that out of the way, let's look at this guy's reactions and abilities, starting with his reactions, and that is the test of skill. It does the following. A fighter can make this reaction after they are targeted by a melee attack action but before the hit rolls are made. If each hit roll from that attack results in a miss, allocate 10 damage, 10 to the attacking fire. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you would know that I'm known for being very cold towards very RNG intensive abilities, and test of skill is absolutely far too RNG dependent for its own good. However, 10 damage is nothing to scoff at, and being toughness 6 means most things are only hitting you on 5s. So theoretically, getting off that, that big Mama Jamba 10 damage spike isn't that unlikely against a lot of things. Now, to get a 5+, that's a 1 in 3 chance. So really, if something has 3 attacks, they're probably going to land that spicy hit, and that's going to ruin your day. And then that's a wasted AP. And that's not good. That ain't good. You don't want that in your life. However, I would say it's worth it. If you were going to react anyway, I would consider maybe bearing this for a bit of fun. And especially against chaff. So chaffy things, come in with their low attacks. And then they've got like 10 HP. Whatever. They attack you, you could get that instant kill off. I would also consider using this against very high toughness models who have low attacks. The biggest offenders here are Annihilators. They get 3 attacks and they wound you on 5s. 3 attacks, wounding on 5s. Which means you can just half their health. Sometimes. We'll say half the time here. You'll maybe come in when they go to attack you, bam, half the health. If you get lucky, you might kill them if you do it back to back. So it has uses. Is it better than counter? Maybe. It might be better than counter. Counter will probably max out at 2-3 damage, depending on how many attacks they get. And would you rather have the near guaranteed 1-3 damage ish? Or would you go for that sort of like 50-50 on the 10 damage? And like, not gonna lie, I pick the 10 damage every time. Not a fan of RNG, but when it's RNG that has such a good payoff, yeah, no, I do it every time. And my favorite thing to do is to test of skill enemy leaders, especially things like many of the bespoke warband leaders have like 20 wounds. So, like, the Witherlord, the Ruminator Alpha, the Horns of a Shut, also got 20 HP. Use it twice. Let them come in, use it twice, and, there's that very low chance you'll kill them, but when you do, their skill wasn't good enough, and they got smited by the Ogroid Myrmidon, and it's great. Best thing. But competitively, probably not the best thing to use all the time. It has its place. Like I said, really, really tough things. Excellent for. Like tough, low attacks, brilliant. But you really want to make sure that they're hitting on 5s. And if they're hitting on 5s, you really want to make sure they are coming in with only 3 attacks. So yeah, competitively speaking, you probably won't use this at all. You'll probably save your AP. The Myrmidon's AP is very, very high value because he's a very expensive model. And when you see his other abilities, you'll see why you probably want to save AP so you can maximize your damage output. But the Ogroid Myrmidon's strength is only 5. This makes him incredibly susceptible to being kind of bogged down by toughness 5 enemies or above. At which point, yeah, this does become a worthwhile investment because there's always that chance you'll spike and you'll probably do more damage on that spike than you would if you're just rolling that 50-50. On the attacks, you'll probably max out like 8. If you do that normally, this could get 10. I don't know. There's definitely play here. I would definitely say against toughness 6 and 7, you would absolutely use test of skill. Toughness 5, maybe. Anything lower, probably not, unless you're doing a bit of a meme. But yeah, test of skill, surprisingly solid. Like it a lot. It makes you think, which is what I like in abilities. It that make you think and have actual situational use that you can consider using. It's not so outlandishly RNG dependent, outlandishly situational that you'll never use it. It has uses, and those uses will crop up fairly often. So very good, very good. So let's move on anyway. Let's go on to abilities. And we have 3, the split being 1 double and 2 triples, so there's no quad here. And this makes the Ogroid Myrmidon, because he has 2 triples, surprisingly expensive to use dice-wise. Having more than half your abilities on triples with the Ogroid means you are going to have to invest a lot of dice into the Ogroid, and that will take away your dice from your factions game plan. Your factions have a general play style, and their dice help achieve that goal and that play style. So bringing the Myrmidon, this is probably a negative here, bringing the Myrmidon with his very high value, high cost abilities can dilute your ability dice pool quite heavily. So bear that in mind, but we'll check them out. And first things first, we start with Berserk. And not gonna lie, I love Berserk. Berserk is one of my favorite abilities in the whole game, despite the fact that it has incredibly obvious downsides. It's very good. It's very fun. So let's check it out. Okay. So a fighter can only use this ability if 20 or more damage points have been allocated to them. So the Ogroid Myrmidon. Add 3 to the attack's characteristic of the next melee attack action made by this fighter in this activation. So let's address the negative first, the catch. Okay, the catch is you need to be near death to use this. And that's a serious negative. The Ogroid Myrmidon has 30 wounds, so if you've taken 20 wounds, you've lost 2/3 of your HP. To activate this ability, you need to be very close to death. What does this mean in positives? Well, the effect is incredible. So if you do get knocked down into this bracket, you can spend a double to get 3 attacks. And that is outstandingly powerful. You go from 3 attacks to 6 attacks in one action. And what does this mean in game? This means you can move and then functionally double attack, because you have 3 attacks normally. If you were to stand still and attack twice, that'd be 6 attacks. So you can move and double attack. If you're stationary, you get 9 attacks at strength 5 for 8 damage. Staggeringly good. That is enough with even just 6. With 6 attacks at 4/8 damage, you are looking at well over 12 damage per hit. The potential to one-shot leaders in the game with that, with just the 6. How high is that chance? Fairly low. It exists. It's below the average rolls here. You would need to roll above average rolls to get the kill there. But when it comes to killing just basic infantry, guaranteed death. Just about. You're rolling 6 dice, probably hitting on 3s, and get a single 6, everything dies. 8 damage is nothing to snuff at, and then any other hit will kill any basic infantry instantly. So yeah, super reliable for killing things. Super reliable for killing even bigger things than you, elite things, killing things that are leaders and important. Super strong. And what makes this so good? So I have just briefly touched on the idea that you can move and attack, and get 6 attacks, and that's very strong. So why is this so much better than the universal double that provides +1 attack per action that turn, because that requires you to stay still to get any benefit from it. The double universal double is fantastic if you're stationary, because you get +2. You get +2 attacks that turn. It's very, very strong. It doesn't have the utility of Berserk, and Berserk has the downside of being you've got to be injured. But that utility, I am a huge fan of anything that lets me functionally move and attack. This basically is a double that almost has the power of a quad. That's how strong this is. Almost as strong as a quad for a double, and that is staggeringly good. So bafflingly good of an effect that the negative, the catch, doesn't matter that much. But there is a trap. There's a trap with this. You don't want to rely on this as your main source of damage. You don't want your Ogroid Myrmidon running in just to take damage to burn Berserk. That is a trap you will fall into. In some games, this will work. Some games you might want to do that because you need that extra damage. You want to get the Myrmidon up to full power. That works. I understand why you would do that. But for the most part, the Myrmidon has so many other strengths, namely its range and its defensive values, that actually playing safe is often better. And rushing to die is rarely a good thing when it's a model this expensive. And once you do hit 10 wounds remaining and you burn Berserk once, it doesn't matter who you're fighting, they will never let you burn Berserk again. They will focus you down, and there's play behind that. Of course, you can use that as a bait, but expect the Myrmidon to die. And another thing, if enemies are aware of the Myrmidon to begin with, there's actually a chance you'll never burn this. You'll never be able to use this, because they will either completely ignore the Myrmidon because they don't want to damage it. They'll find other ways around it. They'll bog you down with chaff. They'll net you. They'll use all kinds of other tactics and plays to basically stay away from the Myrmidon so you can't get injured, so you can't burn this. Or they will kill you. They will get you down to 11 HP exactly in one eventually, so you can't burn this, and then they will murder you the next turn. So the effect is powerful enough that people will play around this. They will find ways to play around this one way or another. So it's down to you to find ways of ensuring you can get it off. And that can be that's easier said than done. Very powerful, but has some drawbacks. Overall, though, love this ability. One of my favorites by far. Very, very cool. So our first triple is Arcane Fury, and this is, again, one of my favorite abilities in the game. This kind of ability I very much enjoy, especially for a combat-based ability, and it's very strong on the Myrmidon. It is a triple, but we'll see what it is. Until the end of this fighter's activation, add the value of this ability to the damage points allocated to enemy fighters by each critical hit from melee attack actions made by this fighter. Okay. This is stupidly good. Oh god, you have no idea. This is bonkers. So you will use this, if you've got the triple, you will likely use this whenever you have a high triple and you aren't in Berserk mode, because this can bump your critical damage to math brain work 14 damage per crit. Now this is outstandingly good, even if you're just running in with your standard, coming in with your, you're in your stationary, you get your 6 stacks. Amazing. You're almost guaranteed. You're very likely to roll that 6 on 6 attacks, and that is 14 damage without doing anything else. If you get 2 6s, which isn't unlikely, you are landing 28 damage. Now, the significance of an ability that can spike this high. So, 14 times 6 damage is the highest spike, and that is stupid. That's enough to kill anything in the whole game instantly. There is a chance you could kill anything in the game, and you've got a very high chance of killing just about any leader in the game, and if you don't kill them, you will leave them so crippled that they'll be forced to either fall back, die to something else, or, best case scenario, fall back to heal, and they'll knock them out of the game for a while. And then they'll still die because your damage is too high. So you put your opponent in a bad situation every time you use this. It is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And the mind games are why this is so good. So as a former 4th edition Eldar player during the days when the 4th edition Eldar Codex was like in 6th edition or something stupid. No, it was it was 3rd edition Eldar, I think, existed in like 5th edition, and it was crazy. And one of the ways you won with Eldar back then was just messing with the opponent's head. There's an entire it was back in the day. There was so many YouTube videos that would just go mess with your opponent's head, and you just did. That's how you did it. And this is the kind of ability I love, because you can mess with people so bad. You don't really. So when you say what it does in the pre-game, okay, you need to do it in the pre-game. So you never lie. You don't lie, okay, but you say this ability has the potential to deal 84 damage. Okay, that's what you say. You plant that seed. You leave it there. Okay, you'll plant the seed, and they could have a chimera. They could have anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. You can go, this Myrmidon, yeah, you can do 84 damage a turn. Okay. And every time, people will remember this. They'll remember that, and they'll play differently. They will play around the Myrmidon, especially if they've never fought it before. And you know for a fact that you probably won't land that 84 hit, but you also know that if you get into combat, you are still killing anything you touch with this. And even if they don't believe you, or they see through the ruse is actually a ruse in and of itself. It's a layer. It's ruseception here, okay? Because like I said, you will kill anything you touch with this. Just about anything will die with this on a average roll, and they'll then start to believe. You'll make a believer out of them, and you go, I can do 84 damage, and you don't do that, but you still do 28 or something. Go, oh god, they did 28 damage, Christ. And that will stick in their head, and then that'll permanently put, again, the Myrmidon in this situation where people will either avoid it or focus it down. And then you can, if they're going for the focus down strat, you can play around that, because that plays into Berserk. If they don't do that, and they are playing around it to not try and kill you and just avoid you, then you're usually faster. You can cash them. So yeah, the mind games are very strong. But yes, you will only be able to mind game someone once with this, so to make sure you do it right. And when you do the mind shenanigans, yeah, people will absolutely try. Again, with the Myrmidon, you'll find that people don't often play around the Crusher, because the Crusher is very much one note. He just goes bang with the rock. The Myrmidon has so many high damage abilities that are all very, very powerful. People will avoid this guy. They will do everything in their power to not fight this guy. And if they are fighting this guy, you should probably be concerned, because they are going to kill that guy. They're going to try and kill him. If they're going for a suicide murder run, you're in trouble as well. So this is, again, this sort of highlights the power of the Myrmidon. It is so strong that people will play around this one model. It doesn't matter what faction you have, this guy will be the guy they focus on every time. Their whole plan will have the Myrmidon factored in some way. And then this leads us to our final triple though. This is a little bit less impactful than Arcane Fury, than Berserk. This is Blood Marshal, okay? And it's surprisingly powerful. So I'm going to go into it now. Pick a visible friendly fighter within 4 inches, okay? Allocate 1 point of damage to that fighter. If that fighter is not taken down, they can make a bonus attack action, okay? This is really strong. Again, another really strong ability. This ability, bonus attack actions are great. So you're spending dice to give more AP. Always good. Dice for AP, always good. I am a huge proponent of getting bonus move actions. or bonus attack actions, and this is a bonus attack action on anything within 4 inches. Just one guy, obviously, but any model within 4 inches can get a bonus attack action for the low price of 1 damage. Who cares? It's not a big deal. You go in and it allows the Ogroid Myrmidon to do his whole turn. So unbuffed, obviously, but doing his turn, doing his thing, and then buffing someone else so they can do their thing. And utility is never a bad thing. And utility on a model who has so much strength in its core is always great. It gives the Myrmidon more play. It gives it more influence across a wider spectrum on the battlefield. This ability is fantastic for that. And there are so many strong units that can benefit from a bonus attack action. You could put this on another ally. You could poke a Ogroid Crusher. You could poke your general. You could poke, I don't know, a Hornhelm, from the Chaos Legion or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. It'll do damage. It'll do work. Fantastic. Very, very powerful. But me being the sneaky bastard I am, there are ways to use this ability to absolutely mess with your opponent in the best way possible. So here's out. It does damage, okay? 1 damage isn't a lot, but 1 damage could be the difference between life and death and victory and defeat. So many abilities are burn only when something dies. So look at the Ogroid Crusher. His bloody trophy only pops when you are killing something. You get wild dice on a kill. Or let's say the Beast Lord, another one, the Beast Lord. He comes in, he makes an attack aura. The Decuriac also makes an attack aura on kill. The all Minotaurs heal on kill. Okay? And people who have these abilities rely on these abilities for them to work. For example, Chaos Legion does not work very well without the Decuriac coming in and getting that aura of attack buff, right? It just doesn't work. You can stop this because how many times, okay? Let us know in the comments, okay? How many times have you been left on 1 HP, okay? The 1 HP club is a Warcry kill team meme thanks to, I believe, Mountainside Wargaming, okay? It's a meme, it's great, the 1 HP club. Check them out, really good. Fantastic battle reports. Yeah, it happens all the time. That 1 HP, it happens. People, when you're really number crunching, the worst thing that could possibly happen is if your dude on average does 9 damage. That's the worst thing, or 11 damage, and it's just below that threshold of getting that 1 turn kill with the model, and that's the most painful thing, because you want the average to be you kill something, not you just don't manage it. And because a lot of things fall short of that 1 turn kill, the 1 damage remaining situation is very, very common, and people also very much enjoy leaving things on 1 HP because it means, sure, they didn't get the kill this time, but next time they can plan around this and they can guarantee to get their ability off. So they can play around this and they can plan that turn with this knowledge in mind. Not anymore. Not anymore. You kill your guy, you lose a guy. That's sad. That's sad beans. Because you tear, shed a tear, have a bit of a cry, but then you prevent them from buffing up the army, and this is situational. But people will hate you. If you do this, people will be like, "What have you just done? Why are you killing that guy?" And then it'll dawn on them, and they'll go, "You tactical genius." And the amount of times I have used Blood Marshal to kill my own people and to deny people their buffs is more than I can count. It happens every other game. It'll happen. It just does. It is surprisingly common how often you can do this, and when you do this, you can save yourself from losing. These on-kill buffs are substantial, and if you can prevent them, yeah, you one step closer to victory. You've ruined their plans. You've killed a model that was going to die anyway. So who cares? sure, you've spent dice. Okay, you've spent dice to do this, and it's a triple. It's an expensive thing to do it for, but dice are meant to be spent. And if you spend dice and this increases your chances of winning, then you do it, man. You kill your own guy. You kill your own guy every single time. And theoretically, if you had 2 Myrmidons, can you even take 2 Myrmidons? I don't even know. How do the ally rules work with that? I'm not even sure. Okay, theoretically, if you could take 2, comment below. Can you take 2? You could stab yourself a few times. You know, stab your mate next to you and get them into berserk range. You know, given enough time. Longer than the game, but you could theoretically do it. You could pop off that if you want to. But yeah, man, this is Blood Marshal, very good, surprisingly good. In a list of outstanding abilities, Blood Marshal somehow manages to be outstanding itself, even with its intended use. Brilliant. Its unintended use, also brilliant. You just gotta love it. But all that aside, that's all the abilities. Let's look at the stats. Okay, this is the meat and potatoes. This is what makes the Marshal the powerhouse he is. Abilities are great, but good abilities on a bad model make a good model. Okay? Great abilities on a great model make an outstanding model. And I kid you not, the Ogroid Myrmidon is outstanding, okay? So, as per usual, we will start with defensive stats, okay? The Ogroid Myrmidon has 5 movement, toughness 6, 30 wounds. We've covered all this before, but this is, when combined together, is an incredibly solid profile. This is a beefy guy who's fast. He's fast, he's beefy, he won't go down easily. This will take dedication to kill, which is why when I say people either kill him in one go because they know they can, or they will avoid him because they can't kill him and they know Berserk is a threat. Okay? His stats are just that good. He will either never die or he will die. There's no in between. He'll be murdered brutally by the strongest things you've ever seen, or he'll live forever. And that's a good place to be in. If you're tough enough that the options are to dedicate an entire warband for multiple attempts to kill you, or to ignore you completely because you're too tough, this is good. That's a good place to be in. Okay? But then we have our attacking stats, and of course the attacking stats are superb. The Ogroid only gets 3 attacks, but that can go up to 9. It can go up to, it goes up to 9 if you're stationary with Berserk. It goes up to 8 if you're stationary with the Universal Double. And the guy has 4-weight damage. 4-weight damage is outstanding. It's 14 damage with Arcane Fury, possibly. And you come in with range 2. Range 2 is where it's at, and it really gives the Ogroid legs. Range 2, movement 5, on a model this big. The base is huge. So that range obviously stretches from the base. So the bigger your model, the more reach you have. You have a much larger area of influence for that 2 inches. Really good. And it covers one of the biggest weaknesses of every other ally we're going to cover from the Fomroid onwards, and that is 1 inch reach. Having 2 times that reach lets you engage enemies that are dangerous, that can kill or seriously wound the Ogroid. As limited as that pool is, you can strike at them from a safe distance. You force them to move to you because you have that 2 inch reach, and they may only have 1. You'll often find that the strongest enemies in the game have the lowest range. The super high damage infantry tend to have 1 inch reach, and that's by design. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, and that's important to note. You having that 2 inch and having a profile this strong is very good. Okay, so his biggest downside though is his strength 5. Strength 5 sounds really high, and that's what strength 5 is quite high. And the average toughness in Warcry is 4. I believe it's 4. And that's good. You are hitting on 3s against most things. However, many factions can bring toughness 5 frontline infantry. And toughness 5 frontline infantry is the bane. It is the bane. If you want to use the Ogroid Myrmidon against super elite, super tanky enemies, you either need a crit fish, or you need to find a way to reduce the enemy's toughness. How can you do this? Many ways. The Jade Obelisk just recently got the Idol Arc model that allows you to reduce toughness by up to 3. The Horns of Hashut, I believe, can reduce toughness by 1 on the regular. With I believe it's Smoke Bomb. Correct me if I'm wrong there. They've definitely got an ability that I think reduces toughness. If not them, the Rotmire Creed definitely do. And this is a fairly common ability, is to reduce toughness. And reducing a toughness 5 to toughness 4 really helps the Ogroid Myrmidon have much more of an impact in the game against those tougher enemies. So really consider who you're putting up against. Your 3 attacks isn't great. It's not good. And having a 50-50 chance to land a hit means you're hitting, what, like 1.5 times with 3 attacks? It's not good. It's not good. Even with your super high damage, it ain't great. You want to have much higher odds. Hit on 3s is much better than hitting on 4s. And if they're toughness 6, avoid them at all costs. You do not fight toughness 6. If a toughness 6 comes after you, you burn Arcane Fury and you just crit fish and hope for the best. And you're looking for those 6s. So you have ways of doing it, but the ways you're going to use are not quite as reliable as just going against those toughness 4s. And this is where the Myrmidon really does shine, is taking on that is bullying. He's a giant bully. He bullies his own people as Blood Marshal. He's about bullying weaker units and cutting them down. And he can cut down very reliably 2 chaff infantry a turn, which is great. You know, if you can cut down chaff that reliably, then they can't bog you down as easily. So, you know, low strength, not great. It ain't great. Okay, but it isn't the end of the world, especially in factions that can reduce toughness, especially against factions that don't have toughness, you know. Again, Rotmire Creed don't have anything above toughness 4. The Horns of Hashut are mostly toughness 4. They can take toughness 5, but what I've seen is fairly uncommon to do that, but they can have it. But, you know, the final point here, the final stat, points. Okay, points. The Ogroid Myrmidon is 265 points, and this is absolutely on par with all the models of this size. Okay, I would argue the potential for the Ogroid is far, far higher than its peers. This thing can be brutal in the right circumstances, and you really do take this guy if you want a proper, unabashed beat stick. Okay, and what utility you have, whilst nice, can sometimes take a backseat for that raw power, and frankly, that's not a bad thing. there's a lot of power behind this model, especially at this points cost, and the negatives are very minor. They're very, very minor. Obviously, I went a bit more in detail into the strength 5 weakness. It's a notable weakness, but it's not a game changer. It's not a deal breaker here. This is still a very good model for a very respectable price. In conclusion, the Ogroid Myrmidon is excellent. It is really good. This is a great model with potential just pouring out of its ass. Like so many allies, okay? Like so many allies, this guy can find a home in so many lists, especially in lists that can help it by buffing strength or toughness or reducing toughness. The quality of this guy's stat block alone makes him very, very competitive. His abilities are outstanding and let him operate in any scenario. He can be utility. He can buff his attacks to absolutely mince people. He can buff his criticals, so when he can't buff his attacks, he just deletes you. He has so much power. He is so fast. And man, this guy's great. I liked the Fomoroid Crusher, but I absolutely love this guy. The Ogroid Myrmidon is, of the two, my personal favorite. This guy is a real presence on the board, and he will make an impression. He will make an impression on the board. You drop him down. He looks dangerous. The model's beautiful. He looks dangerous. Then you use him, and then people will not make the mistake again of of taking this guy lightly. You only underestimate the Myrmidon once, and then you're in trouble. You'll never do it again. Thank you everyone for watching. If you made it this far, thank you very much. You absolute legends. Please consider leaving a like, a comment, and hitting that subscribe button, even clicking the bell. It'll be fantastic for the channel. It helps the channel out a lot and lets me know that you want to see more things like this. If you have any specific suggestions for videos, please let me know in the comments below. That'd be fantastic. I believe next up is the Mind Eater Sphere ranks, followed by Horns of Bashut, and then I think Signs of Flame. I think. But after that, we're good to go. So let me know. Do you want to see Untamed Beasts, Dark Oath Savages? Do you want to see, I don't know, Ogre Kingdoms? What's called Ogre More Tribes now, right? Let's know. I'll make something up. We'll do it. We'll mix it up. It'll be a fun time. But until then, thank you all for watching. It's been fantastic being back. The new year's been fun. We've got a wonderful green screen. We've got some toast here, you know, a little toaster. It's beautiful. A Highland cow, you know. What's not to like? So until next time, I'll catch you later. Ta-ra.